Last year, a mere 7 monarch butterflies were counted to be at the Royal Botanical Gardens, and although the numbers fluctuate, there is little doubt that the species numbers are in decline. The Royal Botanical Gardens is ramping up efforts to improve this startling situation.
In the natural lands, we're the stewards of a large component of a nature sanctuary, is over 970 hectares. And as part of that, what I work with, the terrestrial component, so all of the land-based stuff as opposed to the wetlands and the marshes, we have a number of areas that are good habitat for monarchs currently. So we have about 37 hectares currently of meadows, which has all of the wildflowers and the milkweeds that the monarchs require either to sustain the adults in terms of nectar for either just living or migration, or the milkweeds for the caterpillars for their development. But also what we work on actively each year is restoration of the natural lands to improve and kind of improve the overall natural landscape.
Efforts such as this are only effective if we understand what is causing the decline in the first place.
So there's a number of things that cause the decline, but one of the big ones, alternative forest uses in Mexico, which are their overwintering grounds. If you decrease the amount of habitat that they have, you're not going to have nearly as many that are able to overwinter. The problems are also, of course, on our end. We're not without blame. In order for them to prosper, they need things like meadows that have the wildflowers that they need to sustain themselves, and they also need the milkweeds. Now, milkweeds are, in some cases, classified as a noxious weed. They are technically poisonous if you were to eat them. Of course, not if you were to touch them or just have them in your yard. But because of that, some municipalities have encouraged getting rid of them. These spaces that were supporting them are kind of disappearing across the landscape.
The monarch disappearing may be an indication of other issues within the ecosystem.
The monarch will have a certain number of insects and birds that will be able to feed on it in some form or another. But it is a species that requires these habitats, and as you're seeing species like this decline, it kind of sets up a red flag for you. You're saying somewhere in the landscape, some functional piece of our ecology, our natural heritage for all of North America, is failing. And so not only is it important for the other species that depend on it, but it is this indicator that hundreds and hundreds of other species that require the same habitat to the monarch are being impacted negatively. And if we're noticing the monarch because it's nice and flashy and orange and very pretty, what are the species that we're not noticing? What are the impacts that we're not seeing? It's just concerning overall from a natural heritage and ecology perspective.
According to Dr. D'Entremont, there are many things citizens can do to help turn around the monarch's fate.
We actually, coming up on April 18th, I think, we have a kind of a farmer's market style native plant sale that we're having at RBG. So if people were interested in planting some of these flowers and milkweeds, they could get them right on the spot, actually, right there. Something else that you can do is support and even volunteer when conservation initiatives in your area are being undertaken. For example, we every year do plantings at one of our other properties on the South Shore at Princess Point. And for that, we plant a number of wildflowers and a number of milkweed plants. And so we're improving things for the monarchs. And we always look for volunteers with that. So if people want to come up and help us, that'd be okay too.
If you'd like more information on the Royal Botanical Gardens' efforts to help the monarch or want to get involved, visit rbg.ca. For Halton Insider, I'm James Spalding.